Hello, everybody, and happy International Women's Day. That's why I have popped on today. I thought it was just quite appropriate being a woman starting a new business and wanting to celebrate, and also thought it would be a good opportunity to let people get to know me a little bit better as well. So I'm going to give you some fun facts about me and my life so far. Hope everybody's enjoying the beautiful sunshine outside. It makes a difference to be able to get outdoors and take in some of the rays and just enjoy it not being wet and miserable, really, isn't it? So I thought that I would give you some fun facts about me, let you get to know me a little bit better. A lot of my patients who I pop in to see, it's really difficult just now because I'm still adhering to the COVID guidelines and I'm still continuing to wear my mask and my visor, my apron and my gloves, just being really cautious because I'm going in and out of lots of different people's homes and things. So I think it gives a nice opportunity to be able to see me in the flesh without being behind my disguise of the PPE as well. So some fun facts about me. Why did I get into physio in the first place? So, my passion for physiotherapy first began way back in primary school, and I think I was in about primary four, and I always remember we were having a gym session, and there was one of the pupils at the primary school who had cerebral palsy, and she was receiving physiotherapy in one of the corners of the gym. And that just spurred my interest. And I always remember going home and saying to my mum and dad, what was happening there? What was that girl doing in the corner of the gym? Why was that lady, moving her leg for her and that sort of thing? And that always stuck with me. And I just thought, wow, isn't that so amazing that somebody can help somebody who was wheelchair bound and couldn't move her legs herself? So that began my journey of thinking about physiotherapy as a career. My mum's a nurse, and so healthcare has always been, in the sort of forefront of our minds. But physiotherapy, I just thought that was just fascinating how they could help that one person. So that's where it all started from, around about when I was in P4. That started the journey. A wee bit of information about me when I was at high school. So obviously went and studied the subjects that I needed to, but while I was at high school thinking about Women's International Day, I always remember really loving playing hockey and being the captain of the hockey team, but also had a bit of a passion for basketball. Who knew? And there was a few of us in our year group who, a few of us women who decided, well, it's not fair that it's only the guys that get to play basketball. Why can't women be involved in it? So we kind of fought a little bit hard. We're a bit passionate about it, and we were able to get into being coached in basketball and even got to play competitively in a couple of games as well. So that is a little bit of empowerment to women when we were in high school, and I think that hopefully they carried that on as well. So after high school, I went on an expedition to Peru, and on that expedition, we built a medical centre out of mud in a very remote village, where the people in the village there had to walk for days before they could get medical assistance. And that was fascinating, watching the dynamics of men and women's roles across there as well. So when we first went across there, us women were not allowed to be on the building site. They wouldn't let us mix the materials. They wouldn't let us make the bricks either. But over the course of time, they could see that we were from a different area and we had skills that we could offer. So by the end of that phase of the expedition, they allowed us to be on the building site and also allowed their women as well to be part of the building site as well. So that was fascinating to watch, that their confidence started to grow and allowing women to be in more physical role rather than just being in the sort of household role as well. So we built medical centre out of mud. We went trekking in the Andes. We went and helped educate at a school where we were teaching them not just English. We took over photo albums where we showed them about parts of our living life, basically. So looking at farming, shopping, food sources, lots of different things we educated them on. So that was really, really good. And another part of the expedition was going into the jungle. That was the hardest part. It was so humid, and we had to wear like long sleeves and trousers as well for all of the bugs that are out there as well. But we were digging rubbish pits in the jungle because they were starting to see an increase in tourism, and they didn't know how to dispose of all the rubbish that they had, and they didn't have the luxuries that we have of having people coming to collect the rubbish to take it away. So we dug rubbish pits there. And we also went to stay with local families on Lake Titicaca as well, and we dressed up in local dress. It was a fantastic learning experience, and really helped to grow my confidence for when I went to university, off to Queen Margaret University in Edinburgh. So that shows a little bit about my sort of journey. Some fun facts. I'm married to who was my childhood sweetheart, George, who we met when we were 15, and we have 3 beautiful children who are 9, 7 and 3, and they definitely keep me on my toes. And so I said a little bit about where did my passion for physio start. So the passion for physiotherapy really, as I say, started in primary school. Loved going, through university. Started as a band 5 in Rudlin Hospital, then went to Liberton Hospital, where I ran the neurological outpatient service, and also worked in the care of the elderly wards. And during that part of my career, that's really where my frustration began, I would say. The frustration was, okay, why is there no community services out there? These patients are allowed to come in and they're able to get physiotherapy in an outpatient setting. Hello, Cara, how you doing? Hello, Brenda. But they didn't have any follow-up in the community. Whereby, when I mean follow-up, that wasn't like active acute rehab during a flare-up. That was sort of maintenance rehab. So for contracture prevention, to keep an eye on their 24-hour postural management, for doing passive stretch and all these sorts of things. So that kind of started me thinking, frustrated as to, you would get patients to a certain point, but then there was so many limitations within the health service of where you could go after that. So it was an idea that I've had for a long time, but it's daunting, isn't it? It's daunting to kind of think, to leave the comfort of the health service and having all the securities there, to then think of, starting up on your own. And the kickstart for me, really, and I won't go into it in too much depth, was obviously there was the pandemic, and everybody has had their challenges during the pandemic. It's been an awful experience for an awful lot of people. With myself, unfortunately, I didn't keep very well myself, and was diagnosed with a rare condition, and ended up having to have a specialised operation to have 4 masses removed. And I had an awful, awful recovery journey after that. But I think I'm very much a person that thinks everything happens for a reason. And I think that, during that time of diagnosis and the surgical journey and then the recovery journey afterwards, it was really a time of reflection for me, to think, okay, life really is too short. It's so short. And I think a lot of people, that's been put into perspective for during the pandemic as well, isn't it? That it kind of puts things into question of thinking, okay, what's my direction in life? Where am I going in life? And I just thought, if ever there's a time of lack of access to services, now's the time. During COVID, everything has changed, and it's been such a challenging time for all of my colleagues in the NHS as well, where they've really had to adapt, and the outpatient services stopped, day hospitals stopped, they were put into acute services that maybe they weren't comfortable working in, and some of those services haven't restarted again. Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I don't know. It's difficult to see. And, I went in to do my keep in touch days, but that was very much, I just went in and done a little bit of work and then came out again. And I could see the difference that it had made to my colleagues working in there as well, and that, acting, working practices had changed. As soon as somebody's medically fit, then unfortunately they have to be discharged home. And there is new community services which has started up, which is fantastic in the NHS, to be able to think about hospital to home and making that a much more fluid sort of transition, if you like. But still, after that, the NHS just doesn't have the capacity to be able to offer the input after that part of the journey. And that's really where I thought, okay, I'm just going to bite the bullet. And so I just contacted Business Gateway and said, I have this idea, what do I do? wrote a business plan, never thought that I was ready to even write a business plan. They came back and said, you know what, you're ready. And I thought, okay, do I do it? And I just thought, okay, I think that me going through that awful journey with my health was just, it was a kind of sign of thinking, okay, you've had time to reflect, you know what your business idea is, it's time to take action. So and this is where I am now. So it's such a learning journey, as a woman in a new business, website development and all of these things are things that you don't get taught at university at all. You don't get taught anything about business management at university at all. So it's very much a learning curve. But just wanted to thank all of the support that I've got around me, both from friends and family, work colleagues. And, I've been contacted by a lot of different physiotherapy services as well, of other private physio clinics saying, reaching out to me and saying, I think it's really good what you're doing, can we do a bit of networking? And I think that that's just so lovely that there's that support both in the private world as there is in the NHS as well. So I think that this is just a time to kind of celebrate women as a whole on International Women's Day. It's about, thinking about sometimes being brave and making those choices, and happiness is just the main priority, isn't it? Whatever makes you happy, I think, is just the main priority throughout life. The material things, all these sort of things, they don't matter. As long as you're happy in your journey, that is the biggest priority. And I'm very passionate as a physio that I like to treat people the way in which I would like to be treated myself. And I think that that's always been at the heart of anything that I do. Always want to treat people the way that I would like to be treated myself. Because being a patient and being on the other side of things, you're very vulnerable. You can feel very vulnerable. You can feel very out of control of what's going on around you. And I think that when I come to see people, if I can put you at ease and make you feel comfortable, and we can develop that good working relationship of, physio to patient relationship where you feel comfortable with me coming in to speak with you. I like to have a little bit of banter. We like to have a little bit of a laugh to kind of lighten the mood, but also I have quite a holistic approach. So if you contact me and say, okay, Nicola, I'm having problems with my leg, say for instance, just as an example, I'm not just going to come and treat your leg. Okay, I'm going to come and have a look at the whole picture, look at your whole body, but also looking at your whole sort of lifestyle, and thinking, okay, everything's connected, okay? Everything's connected. So if you're having problems with your leg, that'll have an impact on how you are with your functional ability, okay? So how are you managing for in and out the bath, in and out the bed, getting washed and dressed, these sorts of things. But also, what are your hobbies and interests? What were you really passionate about before? What made you really happy before? What would put a bit of a spring in your step, or what would give you joy before your diagnosis or before this problem started? And can we tap back into those kind of established motor pathways that you had with any of the activities that you were doing before? So whether that be, say, knitting, or whether that be football, or whether that be cooking or baking or walking, anything like that. It's really, really important to me that we try to link any therapy that we're doing together into your sort of functional activities that brought you joy, and your body remembers those movements that you used to do. So tapping back into those established motor pathways that you had previously, and also making it as fun and light-hearted as we can. Sometimes just thinking about moving your leg up and down, it can be quite boring. So we want to make it as exciting as we can. And with some of my patients, we've used musical instruments, we've used switches, we've used slime, anything like that. We can make it as fun and as engaging as we possibly can. Okay, so I've blared on quite a bit. I wanted to just, as well, because it's a special day, wanted to give you a little bit of a tip of the day. Okay, so one of the main kind of consistent what am I saying, maybe symptoms that people tend to experience, or that I tend to speak about quite a lot, and this is thinking about, all that holistic management of thinking about your lifestyle management, is fatigue management. A lot of people, when they have had a diagnosis, or they've had an injury, or they've had a flare up, one of the main symptoms that people can speak to me about is fatigue. Okay, now fatigue is such an important symptom to try to manage. Okay, now with fatigue, what I mean by fatigue is tiredness, excuse me, but not just a normal tiredness, it's a heaviness where you feel like the legs or the arms are like a dead weight, and it's really effortful to take a step or to try to pick something up or try to bend down to do something. And so, with that heaviness, okay, and that tiredness that you feel, that actually has an influence on other symptoms that you have. And that's why it's so important. So, with the fatigue, that also can have an impact on how your pain behaves. So, it can make you a lot more sensitive to pain. It can have a big influence on spasticity, if you have any spasticity at all. So, that is where if you felt that you've got increased tone, it can really feed into that. If you're more tired, it can increase your tone, and it can have a big effect on your posture. Now, if you kind of think about kind of a square, and all of these things kind of feed into one another. Okay, so if you're tired, so we know ourselves, if you've been working all day or if you're really tired, instead of you sit up nice and tall, okay, we can tend to slump down a bit, can't we? Because we think, oh, I'm just so exhausted. So that affects our posture. And so, with all of these things, when we talk about fatigue management, and that's one of the things that we kind of speak about when I first come out to see patients, is I can ask you to do a fatigue diary. Now, that might be that you're doing the fatigue diary yourself, or you can do it with the support of your carers or your friends or your family, okay, of thinking about, okay, when do I feel tired in the day? And just writing it down. What time of the day do I feel tired? What activity am I doing at the time when I feel tired? Am I getting washed and dressed? Is it at night time when I'm trying to, take my clothes off? I think, oh, I'm really tired. Or do you get a bit of a dip halfway through the day? Okay, so we write down, okay, what time of the day, what activity were you doing, and how do you feel with a comment? And also trying to almost score your fatigue, if you like. So between 0 and 10. 0 being I'm bright and breezy, I'm full of energy, and 10 being I'm exhausted. Now, when you write it down, it can be quite interesting to reflect back and think, okay, I didn't realise that during the course of a day, I can get maybe 3 or 4 dips in my energy where I kind of think, oh, I'm really, really tired. And with that, when we reflect back on the diary, what we're trying to do is to see, okay, what are the triggers to my fatigue? Some people can have activity related fatigue. So say if you've been really, really busy and then you think, oh, I'm really exhausted. Some people can have a delayed onset of fatigue. So that can be where you've had a really busy day yesterday, but when you get up this morning, okay, now I feel really exhausted. So it's that delayed onset of fatigue as well. So it's trying to figure out, okay, how does my fatigue behave? How does my symptoms behave with the fatigue? And is there anything else linked in with the fatigue? So when I'm tired, is my pain levels higher? When I'm tired, is my spasticity level higher? So having a look at that. Once we have then mapped all of that out, and we can do that over maybe 2 or 3 days, just recording down everything, then we think, okay, now we're going to see what the triggers are to our fatigue. Now, some people triggers to fatigue can be heat. So even a 0.5 increase of your core body temperature can have a real significant effect on your levels of fatigue. You can have side effects to some medications can contribute to fatigue. Your gut health can contribute to your fatigue as well. So if you're very constipated, with the stretch of the muscles within your gut, that can contribute to your fatigue as well. If you have any infection or any signs of infection, so if, for instance, if you think there might be, say, a urine infection brewing or chest infection, anything like that, even a skin infection, your body's having to use the energy to try to repair itself, therefore you will fatigue quicker. Okay, so and your posture as well. So if, say, when you're sitting and you're relaxing, that you aren't supported well, so if you're trying to hold yourself up all the time and hold yourself up against gravity, you're burning up more energy because you're having to hold yourself up there. If you're able to have a lumbar support and be well supported within your chair, you're going to have more energy when you then get up. So it's really, really interesting. And one of these things is just then, once you've identified the triggers, okay, how can we influence those triggers? How can we make them better? Okay, so say for instance, I'm going to give you a little bit of an example, and I've had 3 patients this week that have went through this exact thing. Okay, now 3 of my patients have experienced a difficulty, so they get up in the morning and they feel not too bad, and then by the time it's time to get kind of washed and dressed and all that sort of thing, after they've kind of done, and that's a big chunk of activity in the morning. If you think about if you break it down to all those different movements you have to do when you get up in the morning, by the time you go from lie to sit, but then you do sit to stand, and then you're going to walk through to the bathroom, and then you're going to go into the toilet probably, and then you're going to get washed, and then so all of these things all built up. By the time that you've done all of that, a lot of people think, oh, that's when I'm exhausted. Now, just having that slight bit of advice to say, okay, have you tried getting dressed sitting down? Now, all of these things these are just like little common sense things. But until somebody actually says to you, have you tried sitting down to get dressed? A lot of people will be like, oh, no, I just, I'm in a hurry. I quickly just chuck everything on. But if you were to then sit down and to put your garments on, you're conserving that little bit of energy because you're not having to stand up against gravity, okay? And you're able to be in a lower position to get your socks on and to get your undergarments on. So you're not having to stand on one leg as you put one trouser leg on or as you put your underwear on or your sock on. So all of these things, when you break it down, even getting dressed is quite a complex activity to do, with the balance it takes and the core control that it takes to do. So have a wee try. If you feel that in the morning time, that's where I'm most fatigued, and when I'm really tired in the morning, that's when my pain can be at the highest level, then try that tip of the day, okay? Try and do a fatigue diary. Try to write down, as I say, what time of the day, what activity you're doing and how it's making you feel. And sometimes I say scoring it. So to say 1 out of 10 or 3 out of 10, whatever. And then reflect back on that. And if you were to do the score and you're over a 5 out of 10, at any point throughout the day, or if you put in your comment section that you feel exhausted or you were felt heavy or you were sore, anything like that, then think, okay, what activity am I doing at the time where that fatigue is triggered, and what can I do to influence that to make things a little bit better, to make things easier? Can I break it down into manageable chunks? Can I pace myself a little bit better? Can I put in a structured rest? Okay, so some people, when they're going out to say go for a walk, some people think, right, I'm going to go for a walk and I'm going to walk up that distance. I'm going to walk, say, for half an hour and then I'm going to come back. But could you say, go for a walk up that half an hour and then there's a park bench and then you could sit down just for 5 minutes? And I like to think of yourself as like a Duracell battery. You know, one of those ones that you can press on the side and you can see how much energy is left in the battery. As you're walking along, that energy level is just getting lower and lower and lower. And if you were to sit down for 5 minutes, that battery level would recharge a little bit to then allow that journey home, that walk home, to be better quality movement, which therefore would allow you to be more comfortable and have a little bit more energy when you go home. Okay, so it's quite difficult because a lot of people are kind of set in their ways. Everybody has their own habits of doing everything, don't they? Everybody has their own habits of how they get washed and dressed, how they go for a walk, what they do in their daily lives or how they do the washing. But just doing that little bit of reflection of doing that fatigue diary, having a look at your activities and thinking, how can I break it down into a little bit more manageable chunks so that my posture's better, so that my pain levels are better, my spasticity is better, could make a big difference to not only how you feel on a daily basis, but how you feel throughout the whole of the week. And with the fatigue management, we want to make sure that those fatigue levels, or those energy levels, are consistent throughout the whole of the week, so that we're not having one good day and then 2 bad days, and then one good day and then 2 bad days. So I hope that that's helped. I've blathered on way too much, and people that know me know that I like to speak. So I really hope that some of that information has been helpful for the tip of the day. I hope that people have enjoyed hearing a little bit about who I am and what journeys I've been on, and also where the passion of why I wanted to be a physiotherapist in the first place has come from. And I hope the live has been okay. I have to completely admit that I'm not very confident about doing these. And people who know me know that I like to blather, but it's so different just speaking into a phone. And I don't like watching myself back either. So I am going to try really hard. And, I said to my digital consultant that I would try hard to come on to more live so that people can get to know me a little bit better. So please pop in the comments if you have any questions for me, if you would like to know anything more about me or about Home Physio by Nicola, or about what I can offer, not a problem at all. Pop a wee comment down and I can get back to you in a private